My name is Marian Passananti, and I am a professor in the Rutgers School of Public Health and the Associate Dean for Educational Program Development. And the title of my presentation is Transitioning a Mature, Highly Interactive Course from Fully Face-to-Face to Fully Online. Although online course development and evaluation are two of my responsibilities at the Rutgers School of Public Health, this was my first time at taking a very interactive, mature course and transitioning it into an online course. I had my concerns, but with strong collaboration and encouragement from Karen Harris, an instructional designer at the Rutgers Teaching and Learning with Technology office, I was successful in doing this over a one-year period and then offering this course in the fall of 2019 for the first time. I want to also acknowledge Linda Lopez, our e-learning support specialist at the School of Public Health. Linda provided support by finalizing closed captions on the videos that were made in the studio, preparing and posting transcripts, inputting rubrics into SpeedGrader, and checking that the course was developed with universal design in mind. Now, I'd like to start initially to engage people in this presentation. I was going to ask you to do a poll with poll everything. But since we're recording this now, let's just have you think about what percentage of time you think it would take to create an online course. And then I'll check in with you at the end of this presentation to let you know how long it actually took me to do this. So by the end of this session, learners should be able to plan the transition of a face-to-face course to an online course, translate classroom lectures and interactions into equivalent online content and activities that offer instructor presence and foster student engagement, select technology such as VoiceThread and Collaborations that can successfully facilitate peer interaction in support of the learning objectives. You should be able to describe 3 different ways to provide feedback to students and reflect on the importance of thorough and clear instructions. So this course is entitled Survey Research Methods in Epidemiology. I've taught the class in person for 17 years with anywhere between 2 and 32 students in the class. It's a skills-based class with an authentic project learning approach. So first, there are individual assignments that build upon one another. Second, there's a group project in which students must develop and administer a survey, create a codebook, analyze data, and report the results. There are pretty strict time constraints on this process because it does require IRB approval based upon an open IRB that I have with the Rutgers IRB office. Now, I started by taking my traditional 15-week syllabus and translating it into a course map. So you'll see this course map is quite small. It'll be hard for some of you to see, but it is a 15-week map, and I'm going to show you in the next slide a small portion of it so you can see the details. But you can see that it includes lots of information on the map for each module or each week. This slide shows you the first 5 weeks of the course map. I had to break down the material that would normally be covered in an in-person course into these 15 modules. The course map has a topic for the week or for the module. For me, it's the same thing. The competencies that are addressed in the course objective, module objectives, resources and materials available to the student to gain the knowledge required to complete the learning activities and practice assessments. There are major assessments as well, and they appear in the next column. And finally, the last column has the number of points associated with each of these modules. Now, developing the course map is an iterative process. So although it takes a substantial amount of time to do, it becomes the roadmap for you to create your course site online. It allows you to align module and course objectives along with program competencies, which can be important for course and program evaluation. Resources and materials include assigned readings, lecture videos that are distilled into shorter videos of 7 to 10 minutes in length. They can either be made by the instructor or found online. Supporting materials include things like examples and in-class activities that you would normally do in person and turning them into homeworks and assessments, both formative and summative. You also want to provide feedback, both immediate and weekly, and those things can all appear in learning activities and practice column. You'll want to scaffold your activities so that assignments start out simply and then progress to more complex, allowing students to build upon prior assignments. Finally, the points values are assigned to each activity. I started out by assigning low-stakes activities in order to allow the students to get used to the online course format, and then you'll notice by week 5 is the first time that I have them do a major assignment with higher points values. One thing that I did learn is that although I wanted to assign some activities that did not require grading and points associated with them so that students could learn something on a topic before they actually had to implement it, they actually found it frustrating to spend a lot of time on an assignment for which they did not receive any points. So in teaching this course in 2020, I am going to give them even a small number of points for activities that I am requiring them to do that are really to help them to scaffold material so that they understand and they do perform better in a later assignment. So now the next step is to set up the Canvas course sandbox once your course map is completed. You'll want to start with a home page, which is the landing page for the course. I recommend the following information on the home page: contact information, assigned texts, a tour of the course site, and then to get started links that include the syllabus, a PDF version, a link to the syllabus page, and a link to modules. Notice I have the assignments at the top of the page as well, and I think that that's very helpful for students. Now, I made a tour of the course site because it really helps students to feel confident about how to navigate your course in order to find what is needed. So I'm going to play a few minutes of this for you. Welcome to Epidemiology 0621 Survey Research Methods to the Canvas course site. My name is Marian Passananti and I'll be your course instructor. I am a professor in the Department of Biostatistics and Epidemiology. And the way you can contact me is through my email. That's the easiest way to get to me. This is a video that it will describe the Canvas course site. That will just help you to navigate through the course. Please note that we also have a course assistant. Her name is Riddhi Babel. She's a doctoral student in the Department of Epidemiology. And Riddhi's email appears here as well. In addition, we have information on required textbooks. One is by Peter Nardi. This is the 4th edition of a book called Doing Survey Research, and you really need this by the end of week 1, and be sure to purchase the 4th edition. We'll also be using readings from the Sage Handbook of Survey Methodology, which is an ebook available through the George Smith Library. Please just follow the instructions as they appear here. The next thing on this page will be the tour of the Canvas course site, and I will save the one I'm doing now and it'll appear right here. And finally, to get started, you can go to the syllabus page and you will see each assignment and when it is due by date, and notice that they're due at 11:59. Most assignments are due the week that they are assigned on Sunday evening, but before midnight. Let's go back to the home page and you will see one more thing here. I have the PDF version of the syllabus. I'm going to click on it now and just show it'll download as a PDF, and you'll see it will look very much like a syllabus provided for any other class in the School of Public Health. It has a course description, the competencies addressed, the course objectives, the assignments, information on how to contact me and how to communicate with others in the class, the grading policy for the course, and then a week by week or module by module description of the title of the module, what the objectives are, what the assigned readings are, and what activities, assessments, and quizzes are due that week. So it's a full 15-week syllabus followed by policies of the School of Public Health. And now we can go to modules. And what you will see is, again, 15 modules. Epidemiology 062. So these are the modules. Now I set my course up so that each week was a module. So I have 15 weeks or 15 modules. For a shorter summer course, which might be 6 weeks, you might organize your course material differently. You could organize it in modules, but present 3 modules a week. For this course, I allowed students to access 2 to 4 weeks at a time, which allowed me to make some necessary modifications as a result of some student feedback. Once you open a module, you can't modify it because some students will work ahead to accommodate scheduling conflicts. So this is something to remember when you decide how much material you want to open up at one time. If you do need to make adjustments to a course site during the semester, and you've already opened up a module, you can use announcements to augment what's presented. I added 1 or 2 announcements each week, and once an announcement is posted, it will be sent to everyone in the class. But I suggest that you add this to the top of the home page as well to be sure that students don't miss it. Each of my modules has a similar format so that the students would know what to expect to see each week. The items included in the modules are a weekly outline, videos, quizzes, homework assignments, and peer-to-peer discussion. So for the remainder of the time today, I'm going to talk about how to engage students, encourage interaction, and provide frequent feedback within the course modules. As I already mentioned, each module begins with an outline of the module's activities, with thorough and clear instructions, with information presented in multiple modalities. For example, for Module 1, I provided the students with information describing the components of the course and tips for how to succeed in this class. And I used a video to do this and posted the PDF of the slides, as well as a Word document of the transcript of the material that's presented. And you'll notice in the slides that they have closed captions. Videos can be made in a studio. Rutgers has an ITV studio that can be made in your office, and that can be made at home as I'm making this video today using Kaltura screen capture. I think that seeing the instructor in a variety of backgrounds increases students' interests. And this welcome video was made in the studio at Rutgers. It has closed captions and the ability to increase speed for those who want to spend less time viewing the video. I want to acknowledge here, before I show you the video, that I know that many instructors are self-conscious about seeing themselves and hearing themselves on video. I felt the same way the first time I made a course video. But I promise that you do get used to seeing yourself in the videos, and I can honestly tell you that students commented positively regarding seeing me in the video rather than just hearing a voiceover. In this Module 1 video, I'm going to introduce you to the course and provide you with what I hope will be helpful hints that will assist you so that you can do your best in this class. I also have prepared videos describing each of the major assignments for this course, and they are posted in Module 1 as well. Let's start by describing the prerequisites for the course. It's expected that you have successfully completed PHCO 0504 and 0502, Intro to Biostatistics, and Principles and Methods of Epidemiology prior to taking this class. If you have not completed these courses, you should not have been able to register for the class, but if there's some question about this prerequisite, please feel free to contact me. Now, you might add a brief quiz separate from that video or embed questions in the video to be sure that students understand the instructor's expectations. There's also a checklist at the bottom of each module outline page, and students really appreciated the checklist since it allowed them to keep track of what they should do throughout the week. Now, the fourth item on the checklist requires students to create their own video introducing themselves. This assignment encouraged student-to-student interaction by requiring students to create a video and then to comment on at least one other student's video. This assignment required clear instructions with prompts. In addition to the instructions, I created a sample 1-minute video where I modeled the activity for the students.
My name is Marian Passananti, and I'll be your instructor for this course. I am a professor in the Department of Biostatistics and Epidemiology, and I received my doctorate from the Johns Hopkins School of Hygiene and Public Health. Fun fact about myself is that I grew up in Metuchen, New Jersey, and from kindergarten through high school, I went to school with David Copperfield, the magician. If you don't know who he is, you might want to Google him to look him up. The answer to the question, if I had to choose any job, what would it be? Aside from the one that I have right now, which I happen to love, I would like to have been a Centers for Disease Control Epidemic Intelligence Officer, because I always thought it would be very exciting to have the CDC call me up and say, we need you to come to identify the cause of an outbreak and help us to control it.
Now, this is an example of an in-class activity translated into an online activity. In class, I would normally have students break up into groups to discuss scenarios where one might use a survey for data collection. The students would then come up with the type of survey modality that they thought would be most appropriate. For example, in person, telephone, online. I translated this activity into something called VoiceThread, and there's a VoiceThread discussion. I asked the students read the instructions and respond to specific scenarios. So this is a scenario 1. A large corporation is considering changing the kind of health insurance plan made available to their professional employees. They want to find out the kind of health insurance that employees have and how interested they are in 3 new plans. Which type of questionnaire would be most appropriate? And the students had to choose from the 5 options on the next screen. 1-to-1 self-administered questionnaire, a group-administered questionnaire, a semi-supervised questionnaire passed out at work, a questionnaire mailed to employees' homes, and not using a self-administered questionnaire at all. So I asked students to make comments and justify their choices. And you will see that in these square boxes with the initials, these are the students. In order for me to maintain their privacy, I'm not going to click on them now, but students can respond on their own, or they can respond in a thread. If it's a circle attached to a square, that's a thread. This student KL responded to TP. Now, students can respond in VoiceThread by telephone, by text, and by video, but I neglected to actually tell them that. So next time I use a VoiceThread, I want to make this clear to the students. All of my students responded via text to this response. Now, this is another example of how to use an e-learning tool for an activity that would normally have occurred in class. In the past, I've had a guest lecturer by the head of the IRB at my institution. During this lecture, the IRB director would discuss IRB issues related to survey research. In order to translate this activity into an online course, the e-learning support specialist found a video from another university about human subjects issues in survey research. We got permission from them to use the video, and then I embedded questions within the video, and at certain points the student would be stopped. They would be asked a question and they would have to respond. I provided automatic feedback as well using PlayPosit. Now, you can see the automatic feedback here highlighted in the yellow. It's possible to grade these responses, which I did not do at this time. I just wanted the students to get engaged and make sure that they actually were listening to the video. The next thing I'd like to describe is how I encouraged interaction between students using collaborations within Canvas to simulate an authentic experience. Survey research is a group activity where researchers choose topics, develop questions, and work on questions and response options iteratively. The collaborations options in Canvas allow me to simulate this activity. In this class, students were assigned to groups of 6, and then each week group assignments were rotated so that every student had an opportunity to create and edit questions on knowledge, attitudes, practices, and behaviors, and demographic and social factors related to the survey topic, which was food consumption choices, particularly meat consumption. Once the survey was completed and submitted to the IRB for review, students were assigned to groups to work on the data analysis plan and the survey instrument codebook development. So you can see that students were assigned to work in 6 different collaborative subject areas. Now, I'd like to emphasize the importance of thorough and clear instructions for this type of collaborative activity. This slide shows the step-by-step instructions that were provided to students so that they could navigate from Canvas using collaborations and then bringing them to a Google Doc where they could work together, and then giving them instructions on how to submit their completed work. This slide shows you the Google Doc. I noticed that I started out by providing them with some information that I wanted them to begin with about how to use the document. This shows instructor presence. And then the students had to create the questions. They could edit them, and I've blocked out the students' names here just for them to be, but you can see as an instructor, I could see who responded, and I could assess how well they were doing, how much time they were spending editing and making contributions to this document so that I could assess them. Now, this is an example of assignment, an individual assignment that each student had to complete on their own. They had to create a hypothesis. It was a hypothetical research project that they had to create a statement of their research question, a description of their target population, their sample, and proposed survey mode. During assignment 1, this work was to be done. They got feedback from me, and they were allowed to make changes if necessary. And then in assignment 2, they could make those changes, and then in addition create a document that described their study design, their independent and dependent variables, their sampling plan, and power calculation. They had to provide a letter that they would send to their research subjects, as well as a 5-page maximum survey instrument to address their research question. I also added a sample assignment here. I have found that by providing a sample assignment for students that I really have increased the quality of the work that I am receiving, and that I will continue to do this even when I teach this class online. Now, on this same page, there's a rubric that was provided to the students. It actually tells them how many points are associated with each part of the assignment. And again, I think providing rubrics and letting students know what's important to the instructor and how they will be assessed is quite important. Now, the final topic I want to cover is how to provide effective feedback on student activities. I think this is very important. It can be done in a number of ways. You could embed feedback into formative assessments. You can provide feedback by the instructor in the form of edits and comments on the text of assignments as well as on the grading rubrics using something like SpeedGrader. And you can also post summary posts describing issues that many students have had, either written posts or video posting. So this is an example of feedback embedded in a formative assessment. This is a quiz without any points associated with it. It was intended to help students to see if they understood the basics of the material presented in this module. Automated feedback can be presented to the student based on their responses. If they have problems, you can refer them back to the material from that week to review. And you can allow students to take these formative assessments more than once. Feedback can also be provided by the instructor in the form of edits or comments on the text of an assignment and on the grading rubric, as you can see in this next example. You'll see that I have embedded comments within the text, as well as providing comments in each of the criteria that are being graded. Now, even though this course, this is an example of a summary post that I provided after assignment 1. There were a few things that many students neglected to address, and I felt that this was important to let them know, to remind them to read the rubrics and to remind them to be very careful about what they were submitting. So that's a summary post as well as a summary video for a different assignment where I felt that I could help them by describing it orally as well as verbally. Now, even though this course was designed as a completely asynchronous online course, it became obvious to me that some students needed more hands-on assistance. So to address this, I created a few synchronous options. One was I offered weekly synchronous office hours using WebEx, as well as offering them in person. We also had synchronous sessions for more in-depth support using a statistical package that we used for data analysis, both for homeworks and for the final project. So I offered a 2-hour tutorial for those unfamiliar with statistical packages, particularly the one being used for this data analysis. And it was very nice because between the tutorial, which could be done online using WebEx, I could share my screen and share my data and assist the students. So for statistical analysis, I did assign online statistical tutorials, but some students really wanted that personal interaction. So that in 2020, when I offer this class, I'm going to build in some specific synchronous help sessions on data analysis earlier in the class. Now, I mentioned that announcements for these weekly synchronous sessions could be posted in announcements are a great place to post information like weekly synchronous sessions. So this could be easily done. It would be sent to the students' emails and then pinned to the top of the modules course, to the homepage, or here I placed it in modules where students would then see my office hours as well as the office hours for the course assistant. So some additional lessons learned by me, other than the ones I've already mentioned. One was that I had all assignments due on Sunday at midnight, but that meant that I had to be online on the weekends, particularly late into Sunday evening, in order to help the students. So this year, I am going to have their assignments due Monday at midday, which will give me a little break and maybe them a little break as well. Understanding that many students are working full-time, that's why they want to take an online course, and so they really are doing a lot of their work over the weekends. I also noticed that there's a lot of variability in the prior experience of students, so some really need a lot of additional help, and so you need to be able to build that in either through synchronous help sessions or by allowing them to meet with you in person. Students really value feedback. Even when they've done a really good job, it's helpful to tell them how they've done it well. What did they do? When you say excellent job, what was excellent about their work, so that they can use that as they move forward in this class as well as others. It took me about a year to fully develop this successful online class. So I think people really need to consider their time commitments when they're deciding to do an asynchronous class. And it also took a village. As a faculty member, I was the content expert, but it was the instructional designer and the e-learning support specialist, the ITV studio videographers and editors all helped me to put the package together. And also remember that it will not be perfect the first time around. Creating the course is also an iterative process. So the objectives of this session were to describe how to plan the transition of a face-to-face course to an online class, starting with that course map, translating classroom lectures and interactions into equivalent online content and activities that offer instructor presence and foster student engagement, select technologies such as VoiceThread, PlayPosit, and Collaborations that successfully facilitate peer interaction in support of the learning objectives. Describe 3 different ways to provide feedback to students, which we did in discussing formative assessments, speed grader, and summary posts and videos. And finally, reflect on the importance of thorough and clear instructions. So I thank you for your attention. This is the question I had you think about at the beginning, about what percentage of time it took to create this online course. And if you guessed E or F, you would have been right. It took me between 20 and 25% of my time for a full year. 1 day out of every week I spent working on creating this class. And thank you for your attention, and I hope that you have found this presentation helpful.